it's a highlight that at such a forum, where we're talking about energy for leading up to a very important conference, Rio Plus 20, that really a day is set aside for talking about gender equalities and energy access issues. That doesn't happen every day. It's really, it's wonderful to see a lot of people here, and you get the impression that this is the state of the art. It's not. So we think that's great. What we would have liked to see, however, is gender really included in the main conference. I don't know if you looked around, but there was certainly a difference between the first panel session on the energy for all, and all the ministers have spoken, and the second one we started talking about gender issues. The beauty of the second one is that we were talking more to implementers. We had more discussion with the audience, and we weren't just hearing our government speak. And it would be nice to have a little bit of that in the first session, so that, you know, when you're talking about impact issues such as gender equality, these also come into in the main discussion that's really on the supply side. We've been working in the energy sector for the past 16 years, and we started first of all by raising awareness, this type of conference, raising awareness of why gender is important to energy. We've moved on from the why to how, and how means really training, capacity building, really working with mainstream energy actors in the country, working with utilities, working with ministries, working with rural electrification agencies, to see how they can use gender tools in their work. So we do a lot of training. We also work at different levels. We work at the implementation level, so really working on programs and projects. We've heard about rural electrification programs, cook stove programs, biogas programs, decentralized energy programs, and see how you can actually involve communities and how you can involve women within your programs. We also work at the policy level. How you can make your policies more gender sensitive, how you can make your budgets more gender sensitive, how you can target women more importantly, how you can monitor for change. Gender really needs to be taken as a legitimate social, a legitimate issue in the mainstream that's really going to make a difference. There are many examples that show that. But putting the shoe on the other foot, it's also on the gender and social side. Energy is not really seen as an issue for gender development, and it's also speaking to practitioners and to the gender sector. Energy is a very essential issue for social development and for human development, and they're understanding it. What we find is that when we go into our countries, the gender machinery, and we're talking about gender institutions, we're talking about the Ministry of Gender and Women, we've worked with ministries in 8 countries, and this is an issue that we see in all 8 countries. They do not have the capacity, they do not have the resources to actually support the sectors to mainstream gender. So yes, gender mainstreaming in the energy sector is very important. How you're going to do it is what people want answers for. Who is going to show how to do that? It's very under-resourced, the gender machineries are very under-resourced, and they don't have the capacity. If we're going to, what we'd like to see is real political will. If we're going to have one main indicator of political will is how much resources and how much priority a country is putting into the gender ministry to help, not just to talk about concepts, etc., but really to work on with very practical strategies with all the line ministries. And that's what we want to see. What we would really like to see is programs that are specifically targeted at addressing both men and women's needs. And these are needs so it's not just increasing your access to energy for a country, but who is using that energy. It's increasing the affordability of people to be able to use that energy. That's a big difference between extending your grid and making sure that that electricity goes from the meter box to someone's light to switch on, and people can actually use it. Not just use it for lighting, but actually use it for productive use. And making sure that those are both men and women who are doing that. We would really like to see, starting from our demand side, this afternoon we talked about time saving, we talked about labor saving, we talked about income generation. And that's quite different from talking about how many megawatts, which is also important, but it comes from a different point of view. When you start from what are people's needs, then you can look at what energy sources, which can be variable. So wonderful that we have more efficient energy technologies, we have more efficient fuels, but most important, how are those going to meet people's needs? And that should really be the starting point. That's what we should be monitoring, that's what we should be measuring, that's what we should be reporting on. not how many gigawatts or how many megawatts, but how you have raised the income of so many women. How many women's businesses have you started up? You know, how much saving if we're talking about energy efficiency, how much savings women have so that they can reinvestment in their families and their businesses, etc.